We, as members of a civilized society, have a right to an education, assured a civil right. And to ensure that we get that right, we have enacted laws. So we go to school. We are taught to read, write, and do arithmetic. Ensure those things are great. However, there is an underlying truth that is far too often overlooked. Are assessments merely gauging a student's ability to memorize information and then regurgitate it instead of reflecting on the true keystone of learning, which is installing ability? I suggest that the acts that have been put in place and the tests are failing to recognize the true keystone to education. And I hope to persuade every learner to recognize a great truth that was revealed to me that is not always instilled in the classroom. The reason I hope to persuade all of you that our current education system is missing a key point, in my opinion, is it fails to instill the underlying truth that education wasn't revealed in education that wasn't revealed to me until after my 12 years of primary and secondary education. And I think it's sometimes still overlooked even in higher education. I'll come back to the hack in just a moment. But first I want to discuss what we all recognize about schooling. And we recognize that it intends to ensure an equal opportunity for all of us to get an education. And so we are initially taught a retention of certain basic skills. We learn the alphabet so that we can put word to paper. We learn how to read so we can see, spot, run. We can calculate how many apples are left after Sally and I each eat two. But again, all those are necessary, but does it truly reflect what it's intended to do? To ensure our civil rights education, acts have been initiated. According to the Department of Education, the evolution of our civil rights in respect to that knowledge really took effect in the mid-60s, in 1965, when President Johnson signed into law the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which was then followed by the No Child Left Behind Act, signed into law by President George W. Bush in 2002. Most recently, in 2015, President Obama ratified that intent for law and came to the evolution of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was intending to fill in the gaps that were missing in the prior incarnations of those acts. And as a part of those particular acts, particularly starting with the start of the No Child Left Behind Act, standardized tests became a strong influence into the curriculum as a base to gauge the curriculum standards and to allocate funds instead of being a focus on general learning. And standardized tests are not new to our education system. In 1845, a pioneering educator, Horace Mann, proposed written exams take the place of what were then traditionally the oral exams to have a gauge on student knowledge and retention. In an article published by JSTOR Daily, it's a digital library of peer-reviewed and primary source academic journals, according to author Carol Gallagher, who wrote about the history of standardized tests in a 2002 paper in Educational Psychology Review, Mann's goal was to find and replicate the best teaching methods so that all children could have equal opportunities. Nevertheless, the evolution of our enacted laws and standardized tests suggest a lingering oversight towards ensuring that equal opportunity. Relating to structure and standardization, yes, proponents argue that enacted laws have made progress toward equaling opportunity, basically. Likewise, the tests have shown an improvement in overall testing scores However, do the enacted laws and the expansion of the standardized tests really mean equal opportunity? According to the Britannica's group procon.org, it's a prominent source for debatable issues, and yes, it's those Britannica encyclopedia people. The answer is no. Our education system is failing. Some statistics to help clarify that. In 2000, U.S. students were ranked 18th in the world in math. By 2015, U.S. students had dropped to 40th in the world. And for science, we went from 14th to 25th. And in reading, we went from 15th to 24th during that same time period. So how can this be? We have policies in place. Well, I believe it's because there is an underlying truth that has been lost, and that was revealed to me after my K through 12 years of schooling. And that is that our education system has failed to focus on teaching students to learn how to learn, instead of demonstrating that achievement of retention and regurgitation of specific information as a gauge. Assistant Professor Jody Meadows of Southwest Baptist University put it succinctly, saying, you want to be able to evaluate, assess, and create, not just recall. After all, recall is just an aid to learning. Once we learn how to learn, we can learn anything that we want or need to. And whether it is visually, auditorily, or actively, it doesn't matter how. I hope that I have persuaded each of you that despite the education system's good intentions, it's lost the sight of teaching students the ability to learn how to learn over being paramount to assessment testing. Educators and students alike all have the power to ensure our individual and society's prosperity. We just got to learn how to get our learn on. Thank you for listening.